I'm Griffin Elke, and this is my choice book presentation for Semester 2 choice book unit for Mr. Deckenbach. My book was Most Dangerous by Steve Shenikin about Daniel Ellsberg, the Vietnam War, and the Pentagon Papers scandal. It's about the Vietnam War and what the government did to lie to the American people, and what Daniel Ellsberg did to release any information he could, and release the Pentagon Papers, which was a study by the Pentagon about everything that happened during the Vietnam War. And even though the Vietnam War was still going on during the time, everything that had happened and all the lies that the government showed or told the American people. The intent the author has for this book is to give an expanded, yet very detailed view of the Vietnam War, and he did that in a way that it was very factual and to show the wrongdoing of the U.S. government. One way the author shows his intent is through his use of numbers and his numbers in the book. The author writes on page 84 and 85, General Westmoreland wanted another 200,000 American troops in Vietnam, and which would bring the total to over 400,000. Later he writes, at the current kill ratio of 2.5 to 1, that would cost the lives of more than 175,000 U.S. soldiers. So this small quote just on a page, it gives really huge meaning. It gives scale of the war, saying that the general wanted 200,000 more people, even though he already had over 200,000 people in Vietnam already. And it shows that the government didn't really think of these troops as people. They just thought of them as a number, a statistic. And the government granted General Westmoreland those troops during the war. Another way the author shows his intent for the book is the use of the press and papers that Daniel Ellsberg had to go to get the Pentagon Papers to the American people. He writes on page 224, on Thursday, June 21st, the dam burst. The Los Angeles Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Miami Herald, Detroit Free Press, and 8 other papers around the country published part of the Pentagon Papers. So what that means is Daniel Ellsberg had to go to many different newspaper sources and give them part of the Pentagon Papers because the government kept shutting down the other newspapers Daniel Ellsberg kept going to. So he had them all release a bunch of information on one day. So the U.S. government couldn't keep shutting them all down. What that shows is the government really didn't treat the people fairly, because that's a violation of the First Amendment, and it's a good indicator because it really happened. You can really find the New York Times paper of when that happened and all the other papers, and it really showed the impact that the Pentagon Papers had on the country because the government kept trying to shut it down, that it was very serious and they didn't want people to know. So finally, my thoughts and view on the book. I agreed with what it was about because I think during a wartime, the government should be honest with the people so they can keep the people on their side. Because if your own citizens don't like what you're doing with a war because they don't know what they're doing, it's not good. And you should, as a government, you should be honest with your citizens. And that's what Ellsberg and the author both were trying to say and do when they either released the Pentagon Papers or wrote the book. Thanks.